shock is real. Degrees once considered untouchable are losing power. Even graduates from Harvard University and elite French schools are facing a brutal new reality. For decades, these institutions symbolized certainty, a guaranteed future, a direct path to influence, wealth, and stability. But in 2026, that promise is quietly collapsing in front of everyone. Employers are no longer impressed by prestige alone. They are searching for immediate output, practical skills, and adaptability. The name on your degree matters less than what you can deliver instantly. This shift has created an uncomfortable truth. The smartest students, the most disciplined achievers, are now standing in the same uncertain line as everyone else, waiting for opportunities that barely exist. Across France, youth unemployment has surged beyond alarming levels. Around 1 in 5 young people cannot secure stable work, even after years of expensive education and training. This is not just a statistic, it is a signal. A warning that something deeper is broken inside the system that once connected education directly to employment and long-term stability. Even MBA graduates, once considered untouchable in the job market, are struggling. Months after graduation, many remain unemployed, sending applications endlessly without receiving meaningful responses from employers. The emotional toll is invisible but severe. Confidence slowly erodes, ambition turns into doubt, and behind polished resumes, a silent panic begins to grow among the world's most educated youth. Families invest everything into education, savings, loans, sacrifices. They believe they are buying security. But now that investment often delivers uncertainty instead of stability, pressure instead of opportunity. Student debt becomes a heavy burden. Without stable income, repayment feels impossible. Graduates are trapped between financial obligations and a job market that refuses to absorb their potential. This is where the illusion finally breaks. Education was never meant to guarantee success, but society treated it like a golden ticket, a promise that effort would always lead somewhere meaningful. Now that promise is fading. The system still produces degrees at scale, but the economy no longer produces enough opportunities to match that output, creating a dangerous imbalance. What we are witnessing is a shift from talent shortage to opportunity shortage. It is not that people lack skills, it is that the system cannot find a place for them anymore. Employers demand experience, yet no one provides the first opportunity. They want ready-made professionals, not learners. Growth is no longer supported, it is expected to already exist. This contradiction traps an entire generation. You cannot gain experience without a job, and you cannot get a job without experience. It is a loop with no clear exit. The emotional journey is predictable. First comes ambition, then confusion, followed by frustration. Eventually, many reach a quiet acceptance that the rules they believed in no longer apply. Graduates begin to question everything, their choices, their sacrifices, even their identity. If excellence does not lead to opportunity, then what was the purpose of the journey? The harshest realization is this: the system did not fail accidentally. It simply evolved without updating its promises, leaving millions chasing a future that no longer exists. Education continues to operate as if the old economy still exists, but the job market has already moved forward, driven by technology, efficiency, and the need for immediate results. This disconnect is widening every year. Universities produce thinkers, companies demand operators, and in between, a growing number of graduates are left without direction or opportunity. We are entering an era where knowledge alone is not enough. Speed, adaptability, and practical execution are becoming more valuable than theoretical excellence or academic achievement. The golden ticket was never truly golden. It only worked within a specific system. And now that system is disappearing, leaving behind confusion, debt, and a generation searching for answers. This is not just an economic issue, it is a psychological shift. A generation raised to believe in certainty is now forced to navigate uncertainty without a clear map. The question is no longer who studied the most. The question is who can adapt the fastest. And for many, that realization comes too late, after years of preparation. We are watching the collapse of an old promise, not loudly, but quietly, through unanswered emails, rejected applications, and opportunities that never arrive, despite relentless effort. And this is only the beginning. Because when the strongest credentials lose their power, it signals something much bigger. The entire foundation of the modern career path is shifting. The system trained people for a world of stability, hierarchy, and predictable growth. But that world has already disappeared, replaced by something faster, harsher, and far less forgiving. Now the real challenge begins. Not how to succeed within the system, but how to survive beyond it. Because the rules have changed, and most people haven't realized it yet. Now comes the number that changes everything. 970,000 jobs are disappearing. Not slowly, not quietly, but like an invisible force pulling entire sectors into a sudden and irreversible collapse. This is not just data on a report. It represents livelihoods erased, routines broken, and futures rewritten. Nearly 1 million people pushed out of stability into uncertainty within a very short time. Across France, the industrial backbone is weakening. Factories that once powered economic growth are shutting down, leaving behind silence where production lines and machines once defined daily life. Steel plants, chemical facilities, and manufacturing hubs are facing relentless pressure. These industries once provided stable jobs, but now they're shrinking, relocating, or disappearing entirely under global competition. Regions built around industry are hit hardest. Entire towns depended on a single factory. When that factory closes, it is not just jobs that vanish, but the identity of the community itself. The collapse does not stop at the factory gates. One lost industrial job triggers multiple indirect losses. Transport workers, suppliers, small shops, and local services all feel the impact immediately. This chain reaction spreads fast. A single closure can destabilize an entire local economy. What begins as a corporate decision quickly turns into a social crisis, affecting thousands of interconnected lives. Over the past decades, deindustrialization has quietly reshaped the economy. Industry's share of national output has steadily declined, replaced by services that depend on the very stability industry once provided. But services cannot stand alone. When production weakens, the entire economic structure becomes fragile. You cannot sustain growth without a strong foundation that creates real, tangible value. The numbers tell a long-term story. Fewer people are working in factories today than at the start of the millennium. The decline has been gradual, but now it is accelerating rapidly. Recent years have intensified the crisis. Business bankruptcies surged across 2025 and into 2026. Thousands of companies could not survive rising costs and shrinking margins in an unforgiving market environment. Small and medium enterprises are especially vulnerable. They lack the financial cushion to absorb shocks. When costs rise or demand falls, they are often forced to shut down permanently. Energy prices have become a major burden. Industrial operations require massive energy input, and rising costs make it difficult for domestic companies to compete with cheaper international production. Global competition adds further pressure. Companies move production to regions where labor and energy are cheaper. What remains locally is often reduced capacity or complete shutdown. This is not adaptation. It feels more like slow economic erosion. Each closure weakens the system further, making the next failure more likely and more damaging than the last. Large corporations are not immune. Even major industrial players are cutting jobs to survive. Efficiency is prioritized over employment, and automation replaces roles that once required human workers. The middle class is caught in the middle of this shift. These were the stable jobs that supported families, funded education, and sustained local economies for generations. As these jobs disappear, so does financial security. Households face declining income, rising uncertainty, and fewer opportunities to rebuild what has been lost through traditional means. Communities begin to change. Shops close, schools lose students, and public services weaken. What was once a thriving area slowly transforms into a place people leave behind. This is how economic decay looks in reality. Not dramatic, but persistent. A gradual draining of opportunity that leaves behind emptiness where productivity and stability once existed. The narrative of a temporary downturn no longer fits. This is not a cycle that will automatically reverse. The structure itself is changing, and the old balance is breaking apart. Each statistic hides a deeper truth. Behind every job lost is a network of people affected. Families, businesses, and entire regions adjusting to a new and uncertain reality. What we are witnessing is not just industrial decline. It is the weakening of a system that once guaranteed upward mobility and stability for millions of ordinary workers. The pace of change makes it even more difficult. There is little time to adapt. By the time one sector adjusts, another is already under pressure, creating continuous instability. This creates a sense of unpredictability. People can no longer rely on long-term plans. Stability has been replaced by constant adjustment and the need to adapt quickly to survive. The disappearance of 970,000 jobs is a warning. It shows how quickly the foundation of an economy can shift when multiple pressures converge at the same time. And the most important realization is this. This is not a recession waiting to recover. It is a transformation that is removing entire layers of the old economic structure permanently. The industrial black hole is expanding. And as it grows, it pulls more sectors, more communities, and more lives into a system that no longer functions the way it once did. Now the crisis reveals its most confusing face. Jobs exist, yet people remain unemployed. Vacancies rise into hundreds of thousands, while millions continue searching without success or direction. This is the paradox defining 2026. On paper, opportunities are everywhere. In reality, access to those opportunities feels locked, restricted, and increasingly disconnected from the people who need them most. Take the hospitality sector as an example. Restaurants, hotels, and cafes struggle to hire staff, yet educated young graduates remain unemployed, unable or unwilling to enter these demanding, low-paid roles. Employers claim they cannot find workers. Workers claim there are no real opportunities. Both statements are true, and together they expose a system that has lost its internal logic. A major issue lies in expectations. Companies now demand perfect candidates, even for entry-level positions, expecting experience, technical skills, and immediate productivity from individuals just entering the workforce. This creates an impossible standard. Graduates cannot gain experience without being hired, and employers refuse to hire without experience, forming a closed loop that blocks entry into professional careers. As a result, frustration grows. Many young people begin to disengage entirely. The number of NEET individuals, those not in education, employment, or training, continues to rise steadily. These individuals are not lazy or unwilling. Many are simply exhausted by a system that repeatedly rejects them, pushing them into a state of uncertainty where effort no longer guarantees progress. In major cities like Paris, the cost of living adds another layer of difficulty. Rent, transport, and daily expenses make low-wage jobs economically unviable for many workers. Even when jobs are available, they often do not cover basic living costs. Accepting such roles can lead to financial loss rather than stability, forcing individuals to reconsider their options entirely. This imbalance creates a strange situation. Jobs remain open not because people refuse to work, but because the conditions attached to those jobs are no longer sustainable. At the same time, the hiring process itself has transformed. Platforms like LinkedIn and Indeed dominate recruitment, but they do not always reflect reality. A growing number of job postings are what many call ghost jobs. These listings appear active but often have no immediate intention of hiring any real candidate at all. Companies post these roles for various reasons. To appear growing, to collect resumes, or to create internal pressure on existing employees by suggesting replaceability at any moment. For job seekers, this creates confusion. Applications are sent, time is invested, but responses rarely come. The process begins to feel like sending efforts into a void without feedback. Even before reaching a human recruiter, candidates must pass through automated systems. Applicant tracking systems, or ATS, act as the first filter, scanning resumes for specific keywords and formats. If a resume does not match the algorithm's expectations, it is rejected instantly. No human ever sees it, no matter how qualified or capable the candidate might actually be. This transforms job searching into a technical game. Success depends not only on ability, but on understanding how to satisfy an algorithm designed to reduce human involvement in hiring decisions. Ironically, highly qualified candidates can be rejected more often. If their profiles seem too advanced or mismatched with predefined filters, the system may exclude them automatically without consideration. The result is a deeply artificial environment. Real people with real skills are evaluated by systems that prioritize patterns over potential, efficiency over understanding, and data over human judgment. This is why the job market no longer feels competitive in a traditional sense. It is not simply about being better than others, but about navigating a structure that often ignores merit entirely. The disconnect continues to grow. Employers struggle to fill roles, while workers struggle to find them. Both sides operate within the same system, yet remain completely out of sync. For many, this creates a sense of helplessness. Effort does not lead to results. Improvement does not guarantee progress, and the rules of success seem unclear or constantly shifting. The labor market has become fragmented. Opportunities exist, but access is uneven. Systems are efficient, but outcomes are ineffective, leaving both employers and workers dissatisfied. This is no longer a simple imbalance. It is a malfunction. A system designed to connect supply and demand is now failing to do so in a meaningful and consistent way. The idea of a fair, open job market is fading. In its place, a complex, automated structure has emerged, one that often feels distant, impersonal, and difficult to navigate. Understanding this shift is essential, because without recognizing the problem, individuals may continue blaming themselves for failures that are rooted in the system, not in their abilities. The truth is becoming clear. The job market is not broken because people are not trying. It is broken because the system itself no longer functions in a human-centered way. And until that changes, the paradox will remain. Jobs without workers, workers without jobs, and a system that continues to move but no longer connects the two effectively. Now the real disruptor steps forward. Artificial intelligence is no longer assisting workers. It is replacing them, especially at the lowest levels where careers once began and skills were slowly built. Entry-level roles are disappearing across industries. Tasks once assigned to juniors are now handled instantly by algorithms, reducing the need for new hires and shrinking opportunities for fresh graduates. Companies are quietly restructuring. Organizations like IBM are reducing hiring while expanding automation, prioritizing efficiency and cost reduction over traditional workforce development and long-term talent cultivation strategies. This creates a dangerous imbalance. The first step of the career ladder is vanishing, leaving millions of young people with no clear way to enter professional environments or gain practical experience. Without entry-level roles, the entire talent pipeline breaks. If juniors are never trained, future experts cannot emerge, creating a long-term skills gap that will eventually impact industries at every level. This is what many call the junior job extinction problem. It is not just about current unemployment, but about removing the foundation required to build future generations of skilled professionals. At a global level, the scale is massive. Analysts estimate that hundreds of millions of jobs could be disrupted or replaced as artificial intelligence continues advancing across sectors at an unprecedented pace. The impact is not limited to manual labor. White-collar roles, including analysts, assistants, and junior developers, are increasingly being automated, challenging the belief that higher education guarantees long-term security. The rules of success are shifting rapidly. It is no longer enough to work harder or longer. The new requirement is to work alongside AI, using it as a tool rather than competing against it. Those who adapt can increase productivity dramatically. Those who resist may find themselves replaced, not because they lack intelligence, but because they fail to align with the direction of technological progress. This transition is happening faster than most people expected. The gap between technological capability and human adaptation is widening, creating pressure on individuals to learn new skills continuously. At the same time, cities are becoming increasingly difficult to live in. Rising rents and living costs are pushing workers away from major economic centers, reshaping traditional work and lifestyle patterns. Urban areas that once attracted talent are now losing it. Workers are moving toward more affordable regions, prioritizing financial survival over proximity to corporate offices or career opportunities. This shift is changing the structure of cities themselves. Expensive urban centers risk becoming spaces for wealth and tourism, rather than hubs of diverse working populations that sustain daily economic activity. The traditional career ladder is breaking down. The idea of starting small, learning gradually, and climbing steadily is being replaced by a system that demands immediate value from the very beginning. There is less tolerance for learning on the job. Companies expect employees to arrive fully prepared, capable of delivering results from day one without the need for extended training or development. This creates intense pressure on individuals. Continuous self-improvement becomes necessary, not optional. Skills must evolve constantly to remain relevant in a rapidly changing environment. The psychological impact is significant. Uncertainty replaces stability, and long-term planning becomes difficult when the future of entire professions can change within just a few years. Yet within this disruption lies opportunity. New roles are emerging, focused on managing, guiding, and collaborating with AI systems, rather than performing repetitive tasks manually. Adaptability becomes the most valuable skill. The ability to learn quickly, shift direction, and integrate new tools determines who remains competitive and who falls behind in this evolving landscape. Education itself must evolve. Static knowledge is no longer enough. Learning how to learn, unlearn, and relearn becomes essential in navigating a system that constantly redefines required skills. The final turning point is clear. Individuals face a choice: adapt to the new reality by embracing technology and flexibility, or risk becoming increasingly irrelevant within the modern economy. This is not a temporary disruption that will correct itself over time. It is a structural transformation that is redefining how work, value, and opportunity are created and distributed globally. The future will not belong to those who resist change. It will belong to those who understand it, leverage it, and position themselves within the new system that is rapidly taking shape. What we are witnessing is a reset, a complete reconfiguration of the economic model that governed previous generations, replacing it with something faster, more efficient, and far less predictable. And in this new system, survival depends not on past achievements, but on present adaptability. The rules have changed, and only those willing to change with them will move forward.